I tried Bleak Faith Forsaken for 40 plus hours. Here we go.
Welcome to another video. Bleak Faith Forsaken.
This video is coming out in 1 week from today.
Is a new action RPG coming out on March 10th. I've been following the development of this game ever since 2019.
Oh my
and I
god.
made a couple of videos in the past. I got to play the first prototype back then and the first demo when it came out as well.
I didn't play this.
The final version of the game looks almost unrecognizable. They obviously made some huge improvements. I was one of the testers for the
really
game
cool.
and I was giving my honest feedback to the developers every time I got to play the new demo. This game is still under embargo, so unfortunately I won't be able to show you any of my footage yet. Even though I have 40 plus hours invested in the game so far.
Well, how is it? 40 hours is a lot.
So don't expect me to be critical about Bleak Faith's features before the embargo lifts. I will have a review ready as soon as the embargo lifts, so stick around if you want to hear my full thoughts about the game.
Okay.
In this video, I'm going to talk about Bleak Faith's game design in general and what kind of a game you can expect if you decide to buy it when it releases on March 10th. So let's get straight into it, shall we?
I will say, like, the visuals in this game are fucking amazing. I love the aesthetics of it.
Bleak Faith Forsaken is definitely a really ambitious game. Especially if you consider the fact that it was developed by only 3 people.
God damn.
I was really skeptical when I first learned about the game back in 2019. The prototype was not bad, but it was bare bones compared to the final version. Almost a year after the prototype, we got a couple of demos, which I played a lot. And slowly but surely, I started changing my mind about the whole thing. Fast forward a couple of years, I invested a lot of hours into the final version of the game, and I'm still not done.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Oh, really? So that means 40 hours of gameplay and he still hasn't finished everything. That's crazy. Yeah, most games like this, I thought, like, you know, this game would be a lot like Mortal Shell, for example, and like the Mortal Shell first playthrough probably takes like 15 hours, something like that. That's really impressive. I'll be right back. I need to take a piss.
So what's Bleak Faith all about? Well, it's an open world action RPG which doesn't hold your hand at all. Even though I love that approach to game design, it can be a double-edged.
Yeah, I'm glad about that. Bro, I'm gonna be honest, I hate whenever games tell you what to do. Like, bitch, just put me in there. If I can't figure it out, it probably sucks anyway.
Sword, if not done properly, but I think Bleak Faith did a good job when it comes to this. You could definitely put this game into Soulsborne category, because it shares a lot of similar design ideas with From Software games. I would compare it to Dark Souls 1 when it comes to level design at least, even though the open world in Bleak Faith is much bigger. However,
Dark Souls 1, I think the strongest thing in Dark Souls 1 was the interconnectedness of the world. Like, the fact that you could start at Firelink Shrine, you could look up and see the walls of Anor Londo, you could look down and see Blighttown, and you could look forward and see where you need to go. It was, and like the bell towers, Sen's Fortress, everything is the best.
Every single area in Bleak Faith is highly interconnected, with a lot of shortcuts you can unlock, just like in Dark Souls 1. Even the first area immediately gives you 3 different paths to choose, and I somehow managed to miss 2 of them when I first started playing. After exploring the whole first area, I had the same feeling like I did when I first played Dark Souls 1. You feel very confused at first with all the shortcuts, but when it all clicks with you, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
You can spend a lot of time going in one direction just to end up on the same place you started, or find a completely new area. So it's not just a light version of Dark Souls 1 level design, like some of the Soulsborne games I've tried over the years. This kind of level design just wouldn't work without the verticality.
I also hope that this game has what Elden Ring has, where you roll past a thing into an invisible wall, and then there's a chest, but behind the chest there's another invisible wall, and you go down the tunnel inside of the invisible wall, and now there's an entirely new world that's massive and gigantic, and there's 7 new bosses and 3 new quests in it, and you would have never seen it because you found the invisible wall at the bottom of a cave that you didn't need to go to. That's what I like seeing.
Almost every single zone you discover in Bleak Faith has a very vertical design. Speaking about discovering new zones,
and like where you fight
could
Lich
easily
Dragon
miss some
Vortex.
optional
I
areas.
forgot what it's called.
I missed a huge area that can be explored early on,
Champions of
and I
Fia,
discovered it
etc.
later on accident. And of course, that also means you'll miss some optional boss fights, armor sets and weapons.
Yeah, we'll kill all
Actually,
those.
some of these optional areas are not even meant to be found early on, because the enemies can be a lot harder to kill.
Yep, like
You
Ashley.
should take a hint when that happens, because that usually means you need to get stronger and come back later.
I like that a lot.
But of course, if you have the skill, you can beat the whole game with the first club you get in the beginning. Speaking of
Okay,
that,
so
the
it's one of
character
those.
progression in Bleak Faith is definitely one of its better features, but let's talk about the combat system first. Bleak Faith has an action combat system where the weapon you're using will possibly shape your entire playstyle. Almost all weapons you find in the game have unique active and passive skills on them, but also different movesets. Some weapon types share
like
the
Elden
same
Ring.
moveset,
Okay.
but I don't believe that any of them share the same abilities. Pretty
Yeah,
much
so it's very much like Elden Ring. Okay, that's great.
every playstyle you can think of is possible with the right weapon. There are swords, great swords, axes, hammers, staves, daggers, twin blades, scythes, shields, and probably some more that I missed. All of these abilities use flux as a resource, which is basically just a mana bar. And just like
Okay.
any other character stat, it can be improved with different gear pieces.
Sure.
So if you want to be a mage or use a lot of abilities, you'll need to focus on that stat in particular. Same goes for character resistances. If one of your stats is noticeably lower, you can easily get killed by the enemy who can inflict that damage. I had a
In general, I'm not a huge fan of that kind of stuff, where it's like resistances in a single player game like that. I think it works in a game like Path of Exile, but having to worry about like, you know, frost resistance, bleed resistance, fire resistance, etc. Like, I think the best comparison I can make is to Valheim. I find it to be annoying.
fully upgraded heavy armor set, but low
Switching armor for
performance
different battles,
stats.
yeah.
So even the most basic mages in the game could easily one-shot me with spells. There are some crazy abilities on weapons, by the way, and some more grounded effects, which can help you with your desired playstyle.
Yeah, we're using
When
the
it comes to the
two-handed
general
sword.
feel of the combat, it all comes down to learning the combo system, because when you do it right, you spend less stamina. And of course, you can expect some common mechanics, like in all third-person action RPGs nowadays,
Okay.
like step dodging, rolling, and parry mechanic.
Sure.
But Bleak Faith also has some not so common mechanics, like being able to climb on big enemies and stab them in the back. Actually,
I
that-
really like that a lot. And like there's a few enemies in Elden Ring you can do this to. Like for example, those siege engines that are the big green heads. Remember it was the one I tried to like stab and I did it and then I forgot it blows up and then it killed my character? Yeah. That's so cool.
It's one of the essential mechanics in the game when you're fighting bigger enemies. I was trying to master the parry mechanic because it feels very satisfying when you pull it off. The parry window seems quite generous though. All weapons and shields in the game can parry, but you can't parry bosses. You won't have to wait for
Okay.
long to fight your first boss in the game, but you can also fully explore the zone before you do that.
That's
and
what
I
I'll
would
do.
highly recommend doing that because the gear in the game is very important. Another thing I noticed...
Well, I thought he said he can beat the game at the club at the beginning. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you can do that, but it's like the same as you can beat Radagon with a level 1 wretch. It's just going to take a really long time. You've got to be really good.
is that the game will spawn new enemies in zones that you already discovered. This starts happening after you kill a specific boss in the game. It gives you a reason to explore the older zones again and possibly get some new gear. Bleak Fate doesn't have any character levels, it's all about the gear your character is
Oh.
using. Despite that, you have a
Okay.
bunch of RPG stats for a character, and they're actually really important. However, they can only be affected by the gear you're wearing. When it comes to skills, every time you kill a boss in this game, you'll get a perk point you can use. The game gives you a decent amount of different perks, and all of them have at least a couple of sub-perks you can choose. Perks can improve a specific playstyle quite a bit, but like I said, this will highly depend on the weapon you're using.
Okay. That's
Besides
interesting.
perks, you'll get to choose a couple of permanent abilities, which are RNG drops as far as I'm aware.
Uh-huh.
There is one particular quality of life feature related to looting. You won't be able to loot any duplicates. Every time you loot a new armor piece or a weapon, it feels really exciting because you know it's a brand new item that you didn't have before.
That's really cool. Okay. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Bleak Faith makes it really easy to switch up your playstyle because there is no commitment with the character stats. Since you're not leveling and investing your points into strength, stamina or any other stat, you can easily switch them up just by equipping new armors and weapons. Bleak Faith allows you to have up to 4 weapons on your character at once. Well, 2 weapons if you choose to carry a couple of two-handed weapons. You can see all of your equipped weapons on your back, which is a really nice touch.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool too. You got a bunch of weapons you're carrying around that looks badass.
Weapons and armors are upgradable, and this will be very important actually. The crafting is on.
I like the enemy types. Like everything about this, it has like a very, like there's a lot of uniqueness to this because you have these like, you know, these like Celtic like giants, you know, like some weird fucking like pagan enemy shit like this. But then there's also like a certain amount of like I don't know what you can call there's like a cyberpunk element to it as well. So I find the design of this game is kind of unique.
Most essential, but it's very straightforward. You won't be able to find a fully upgraded item in the game, you have to craft it yourself. In order to do that, you need to visit a certain NPC in the hub area and have the required materials. Yeah, I forgot to mention that there is a hub area in the game that you'll discover shortly after the first zone.
It's called Firelink Shrine.
Speaking of NPCs, there are few and far between. As you would probably expect in a game of this type, the story is not exactly told in a linear way. You'll have to piece everything together by yourself. The environmental storytelling is pretty strong in Bleak Faith as well. I think that will be everything I can share with you about the game, at least for now. By the time I'm done with the review, I'll probably have a lot more hours invested, and I'll be free to talk about every positive and negative thing about the game, like I usually do. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the review, and maybe check out the other content on the channel. I cover a lot of all the new RPGs with various videos.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see some more of this.
You can watch my recent series of videos where I go back and revisit some forgotten and obscure RPGs and action adventures. Anyway guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to press the thumbs up button, and subscribing to the channel will mean a lot. If you wanna go a step further, you can always become a Patreon or a YouTube member. Even the smallest support a month means a lot. That will be all, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, I think this was a good video. I'm really excited to see where this game goes and like what the content's gonna be. Like, I'm definitely planning on playing this on release day. It's gonna be fucking awesome. So, or at least, I don't know, if it sounds pretty good. I mean, if the guy put 40 hours into it, I mean, there's people that have put 40 hours into Bless Online, okay? So it's not like this is the best test of whether it's good or not. This guy's also not really, like, super popular. His video's not. It's only got 2,000 views, so make sure to give it a like and, you know, give him a sub if you can, if you like it. So, I mean, I really hope that we see more games like this because, like, I get very sad whenever a Dark Souls or like a, you know, Soulsborne games comes out, like an actual like Sekiro or Elden Ring, because it's like, oh fuck, now it's on cooldown. Now I've got to wait 2 more years for another one to come out. So it would be great if we could have some more people making games like this for you to play in between the time, you know? So yeah, I hope so. And the Dark Souls 1 style, I think Dark Souls 1, if there are people that say Dark Souls 1 is their favorite game, and I do not consider that a wrong opinion. Because I would say maybe Dark Souls 1 might be my favorite game. Even though I think that the bosses and like the combat is way better in Dark Souls 3. I'm not counting Elden Ring in this, but like outside of Elden Ring, is way better in Dark Souls 3. There's something about Dark Souls 1 that makes it special. I fucking love it. So yeah, I mean, whenever he says it's like that game, I get very excited. They're all using your subreddit as a commercial board? Well, good. Keep making good games and it'll keep up. Make shit games and, you know, well, we can farm those too. Like, I'm fine with that. If people want to promote their game and show like, hey, look at our game, we made this, and if it's good, people like it, I'll watch it. Why not? Absolutely. The atmosphere is really good in Dark Souls 1. Yeah, exactly. World design in Dark Souls 1 is incredible. I think it's the best, man. It is the absolute fucking best.